this work. All right. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for sharing your afternoon with us. And I know some of you may be picking up kiddos on the East Coast, so please turn off your video if that's the case. We don't want anything to happen to you. But we're really thankful that you're here, and I'm so excited for today's expert speaker. If you have not attended one of our events before, we ask that you please ask any and all questions in the chat box. I will call on you. You may show your face and read your question live in front of everyone, or you can just ask me to read it, and that's totally fine. This particular speaker has been so gracious in sharing her wisdom and knowledge. So no holds barred. She'll be happy to tell you all the things that you're dying to know. So it is a pleasure to welcome the Katie Provinziano from Westside Nanny.
Thank you so much for coming, everyone. I realize this was kind of last minute and also like totally biting into everyone's Friday night who lives on the East Coast. So thank you so much for joining. I know that if you're here, you really care about your business because you are showing up on a Friday. So that's so awesome.
Katie, they do care about their business, but they're all really impressed with you, and they're really excited to learn about this incredible business that you have built. So I'm going to just start with a couple of questions, and then as the questions kind of roll in, Miss Katie, we'll ask you and kind of go from there.
I just want to say something before y'all start putting in your questions. Please feel free to ask me literally any question you want, like the questions that you'd feel bad about asking at a conference because you're like, I really want to know this, but I don't feel like I can ask. Feel free to ask anything, and I'll do my best to answer because I feel like when I started, I really just wanted to have some very specific questions answered, but no one ever asked those. So please ask anything.
Thank you, Katie. You are seriously the best and so gracious and generous with your time and knowledge. So, Miss Katie, for those of you that have not heard your story, could you just tell us a little bit about how long you've had your agency and what you kind of did before your agency?
Yeah, I have owned Westside Nannies for I think almost 18 years now. I started it when I was in college, like a 21-year-old, and now I'm 39. So you could do the math at how long it's been. And it's kind of crazy that this has been like my whole adult career. You know, I feel like that's unusual. Most people like move around to different jobs, and this has been what I've loved and have done since college. And before I started Westside Nannies, I worked as a nanny in college to help pay my way through school. I worked full-time while going to school full-time, and that was wonderful. And I worked for a wonderful family who I'm still in touch with today, whose children are now in college and pursuing their own careers. I know time flies, right? And, but I'm one of those kids that works since I was like 12 years old because I love working and I've always loved sales. And so I had a cheesecake catering business, and I'd go on the weekends to yard sales and I would buy stuff and I'd sell it on eBay during the week. And whatever I could sell, I was selling from a very young age. And so it's sales, childcare, and entrepreneurship had always resonated with me.
Interesting. Very interesting. So then how did the idea come to kind of put them all together and start a nanny agency?
Well, I think I've told you this story, Megan. I know I have. But originally I just wanted to figure out a way to pay my way through law school. That was my goal. I was going to be a lawyer. Thank God I didn't do that. But I realized I couldn't continue working as a full-time nanny going to law school. So I was like, well, everyone's always asking me, where can I find a nanny like you? And so I thought maybe I can, find people, and this way I could pay my way through law school. And then I discovered I was going to go to Pepperdine Law School. That's where I did my undergrad. And they had a rule that you couldn't work during law school. And if they found out, like, you'd get expelled. It was really serious. And so I went to the dean of students, who at the time was Ken Starr, who sadly recently passed away. And I just said, hey, you got to make an exception for me, man. I'm not the trust fund kid like everyone else. Like, I have to work, I have to pay my rent, I have to eat, and I want to go to law school. And so I have to have a job while I go. It's not really an option. I can't afford not to. And, I worked full time all through college. I know that I can do it in law school too. Can you make an exception for me? And he was so kind. He listened to me and he just said, well, look, if you're going to go to law school, we want you to go here, but why don't you tell me about this business that you want to start? And so I started talking about Westside Nannies. And at that time I had already started it. I was already getting going. And in talking to him about it, he said, your face really lights up when you talk about this business. You seem really passionate about it. And I said, I'm really excited about it. And he said, law school is always here. Like literally it's always going to be here. But maybe upon, walking towards the path that you always thought you were going to take, you stumbled upon what you were really meant to do. And maybe you should just give it a try. And if it's not, you can come back. But what if it is? And I just thought that was like the best advice anyone's ever given me. And I said, okay, I'll try it out and I'll come back to law school if this isn't for me. And I decided to really give it a full shot and a full go. And 18 years later, I'm so glad I did. And now I'm married to a lawyer and I'm so grateful that I did not choose that career path and chose this one because it's so much more fun.
I love that story. It's why I asked. And that quote from him, I have to write it down again. So maybe upon the path of something, you stumbled upon what you were meant to do. What did I miss?
I don't know, something like that. You could paraphrase.
It's so true. I mean, how many of us are like, we don't set out to start this business. We just end up.
I don't think anyone does. I mean, I've never met someone that's like, this is what I'm going to do, because it's not like one of those careers that like, there's no major in college for starting a nanny agency or owning a nanny agency. So I really feel like everyone just falls into it somehow, even the people that work in nanny agencies, because it's not a career that you hear of.
Right. Very true.
And that at every cocktail party, when everyone's like, what do you do? And all of a sudden, everyone wants to talk to you because it's interesting. No one does what we do.
That's very true. So as we're talking about your past, I would love to know, what do you wish that you could tell yourself when you were starting your business? What would be that bit of advice you would have given yourself?
Well, it would have been nice to have someone that was like, this is going to work out for you. I kind of had the opposite. Everyone in my life thought I was absolutely freaking nuts. And I mean, from an outsider's perspective, I was on the path to going to law school, and that was my goal. And so people, I think even my parents and my close friends saw me like giving up on this really like normal, successful plan to start, what they called like a babysitting service. And I think everyone was just like, what are you thinking? I think people thought I was having like a mental breakdown because they were so worried about me and like, why would anyone do that? And I had friends that sat me down and were just like, yeah, I think you're really making a big mistake with your life. And while I appreciate that, it would have been nice to have one person that was like, you got this, it's going to be fine, just go at it. I kind of had to do that for myself, and I'm glad I had the fortitude to stick with it. But that was hard. It's probably hard for a lot of you, I think.
What do you think? When do you think family and friends finally realized that you had made the right choice? Right? Did they ever say to you, I'm so sorry I didn't encourage you? Or did they ever?
No one apologizes. Are you kidding? But I think that, I mean, for my dad, it was like when I bought like a nice car, like that was his like status symbol. But, I think that when I could just support myself and I was fine and it lasted for a while, they saw like, okay, she isn't like homeless on the street. I guess this is working out for her. She's not asking for money. I don't know. I think people realized it, but everyone's busy with their own lives,
Well, we've seen it and we've all been incredibly impressed, not only by what you've built, but who you are. I think I've told you before, like, I just admire you as an individual and your values, and just think you're an incredible person. And I know you have a rather large team that helps support you now at Westside Nannies. So I was wondering if you'd be willing to share about your support staff and kind of what roles and that they perform.
Yeah, well, my team is amazing. I feel so lucky to work with them. And I mean, they're not just women that I work with, they're my friends. They've really become people that I'm extremely close to, and they are women, all women. I hired one guy one time, it didn't work out. but they are, no offense, Danny.
Mhm.
There's always outliers, but they are just the most incredible women. They are so full of integrity, so hardworking, so kind, always do the right thing when no one's looking. And I just feel really incredibly fortunate to work with all of them. I'll tell you a little bit how our team is structured. We have a placements team that has 4 people on it. Sorry, guys, cough, allergies.
Mhm. It's the season.
Yeah, you're telling me. But we have 4 people on our placement team, one of whom is a manager. And the manager leads the team. She really manages really difficult client situations. Sorry, guys.
No,
And she creates goals for the team and does annual reviews for everyone on her team. Our recruiting team also has 4 people. So they're really similar in how they're structured because that team also has a manager who also does the similar things. She talks to people when there's problems, when we have angry candidates that don't understand our process, and just really has those difficult conversations. Why are you working with me? Tell me what I did wrong.
May I ask you a quick question? When you
Yeah.
say placements team, does that mean those people strictly just deal with client?
Yeah. For me, I know there's so many different ways of kind of sorting things out, and I think it's good to talk about definitions because everyone kind of has a different definition of what a placement counselor does or what a recruiter does. And I just know what I do. And so the placement counselors, they are the ones that are taking the initial client call. All the calls are really scheduled for them, or someone's calling into our main line. And then they're talking to that family about what their needs are, getting them to sign the contract. That's their sales goal. And then they're working with that family, and they're the point of contact from when that family returns our agreement up until the point of hire. So kind of like that full cycle process of placements. And they're even the ones sending out the invoice. So from initial call to invoicing, that's what they do. They don't do any interviews of candidates or any active recruiting. All the candidates express interest in the jobs that they're interested in. And then it's the placement counselor's job to review all the people that have submitted interest and really determine who's going to be the right fit to send to that family. Does that answer your question, Starla?
I think so, yes.
The recruitment team,
So
they're
they
the
have to be outstanding, your recruitment team.
They are wonderful. And the recruitment team has the manager that I talked about. She manages the recruitment process. So it's her job to make sure our pipelines are looking good. And if we're not getting enough candidates, she's going to be letting me know like, hey, we're really low or something's wrong. So she's always looking through the candidates that are coming in. She's the one that decides who passes to the interview stage and who doesn't. She also leads what we call guerrilla recruitment efforts. If we have a really unique position that we need to do some hands-on recruiting for, like a very specific language or something like that, she'll kind of coordinate the efforts to try to find that perfect candidate that may not be in our system. She has the difficult conversations, leads the team, does the annual reviews with her team. And then 2 of the people on the team do interviews all day, like all day long. They're just doing interviews. And then one of the team really coordinates the resumes, biographies, and just general coordination of candidates. We have an administrative team that has 2 people on it, and they do all the answering of the phones and all the coordination of everything. They schedule all interviews and trials for the families and the candidates, and really just do whatever kind of administrative tasks we have. We have a graphics content writer, social media extraordinaire, and she helps with all things social media, graphics, everything like that. And then we have a technology and automation specialist as well, that she can update our website. She understands and works with our CRM. She can automate anything we need to automate. She knows all of our softwares. She can send out, really do pretty much anything we need in that department. So there's 12 people overall, plus me. 6 are US based and 6 are overseas.
And so then the question becomes, when you have this incredible team supporting you, how do you spend your time? Bless your heart, sweetie? How do you spend your time now that you have this incredible team underneath you? You have managers, right? This is our goal, right, guys? Is to have this business working without you. So tell me a little bit. We see you travel. We see that on your Instagram and the beautiful places that you take your beautiful boys. But what do you still do with Westside Nannies? Because I know you're still involved.
Well, I love being involved. I really love my work and I love my job and I love working with our team. But I think the team and Westside Nannies, if I got hit by a bus tomorrow, could continue on indefinitely. There's nothing I necessarily need to be involved with to make it work, if that makes sense. But because I am here and I love working, I'm not ready to retire anytime soon. I do take a really active role. I meet with my leaders once a week and just talk to them about what's going on, what we need to fix. I take the lead in terms of overall marketing and technology efforts. I do any PR that comes up. If a big decision has to be made, if we need to get our legal team involved in a client situation, I'm the one that makes that decision. And I just really support the team. I'm involved in hiring if we need to hire someone. Good. But no day's the same, and there's not anything that I have to do each day. So it does work with life. And I think that's what my goal is for everyone that's on our team is I don't anticipate that someone is going to sit at their desk from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. I want their job to be something that works with their life too. And so we have a flexible work schedule. Everyone is so hardworking in our team and never takes advantage of that. But I think those are the types of people who I hire. And I want them to be able to like go volunteer at the school or whatever is important to them and be able to have that flexibility in their job.
Love that. That is beautiful. All right. The questions are coming in. The first one was Miss Jackie. Miss Jackie, did you want to read your question out loud, dear, or I can read it for you?
I'm here, but I'd like you to read it for me because I'm in my vehicle.
Well, you look beautiful. I love that pink on you. Miss Jackie asked, in the beginning of your journey, did you ever want to give up?
Yeah, sometimes. Actually, but I think the more interesting one was later on in my journey when I had a baby and I had a newborn at home. And I thought to myself, do I want to do this anymore at this point? You know, this was 6 years ago. And I just said, like, do I want to be, you know, I think when you have a baby, you just want to spend all your time with them. And the nesting thing comes into play. And I was just like, maybe I want to be a stay-at-home mom. Maybe I don't want to work all the time. And I really thought about that and really considered that at that time. And what I realized is I think I wanted my job to look different. And I didn't want to be as involved in the day-to-day. And I wanted to kind of be able to have the schedule that I have now. And so what I decided to do, instead of not being involved in my business or selling it or anything like that, I just decided to restructure it and work towards something different. But yeah, there's always times when you want to give up. It's really hard. What you're doing is not easy. And I think what's really hard about it is, especially in the beginning, there's such ups and downs, you know, like in the beginning, you just need like one placement. All you need is like one to like pay your rent and like get you through. And you're just like waiting for that. And it can feel really debilitating. You work so incredibly hard on something and at the last minute, it doesn't pan out. And I think those are the early times when I felt like I wanted to quit, because it's like you work so hard and like the payouts can be so big, you know, but then they can just disappear sometimes. Things happen. And that can be really extremely frustrating and can definitely want to make someone give up. But once you keep going and do it longer and longer, it gets more steady. So you just got to know that that's in your future if you feel that way.
Very good. So Danny, do you want to ask your question, sir?
Sure, why not? When a nanny makes you look bad, how do you recover from that?
It's a good question. We've definitely had nannies that make us look bad. I think that what I've learned is, because we've had some nannies that like go online and like say horrible things about us, right? They're always nannies that we've declined to work with, whether they know that or not. And I think what I've realized is the people around them know that they're not that kind of person. You know, like, do you have the friend that's like every time you go to dinner with them, they complain about something to get like their check reduced or for free? Like, you know, that person? And like, I know who that person is. So if that person was coming to me and just like complaining about something, I'd be like, I know. Everything's wrong for you. I get it. So then I feel like the people that complain all the time online, like they're kind of that people too. And everyone in their circle kind of knows that as well. But I think it's hard. What it's hard to combat is the people that don't know them. And so they're just seeing this online. And I think that there's nothing you can do sometimes. Like, it is just what it is. And that's why you have to build up a great reputation. And so that there's differing opinions. We have negative reviews and we have positive reviews. And just like, people are going to have to make up their own mind and decide for themselves. So some of it, I don't know what you can do about it, other than just continuing to, you know, push forward and do your best and operate with honesty and integrity and ethics and hold your head high. And when they go low, you go high, in the words of Michelle Obama, you know, and it comes around.
Love that. Joy, would you like to read your question?
I get a question from Joy.
You do. I'm just wondering, where do you invest the most in marketing for both segments, clients and candidates?
We really invested in our website, and also like kind of like how we do our process. I mean, marketing is such a big thing, right? And so we really want to kind of create a process and create marketing that makes the whole process with Westside Nannies feel really custom and feel like the candidates are given a lot of information all the time, and that we don't want candidates to feel like they're having to bother us to find out what's up. Like, we just want to give them information all the time so that they feel really heard and taken care of. And so we invest in copywriting, and we invest in graphic design and we invest in automation of emails so that like the candidates are getting emails of like all these different points in our process. And we create videos and we create content, and we really trying to create more of a community. And so I think that's more where our marketing efforts lie versus with families. I think we really try to market towards our candidates more.
Got it. Thank you.
Welcome.
Marilyn, did you want to ask your question, dear?
Hey, Marilyn.
I know she's there. I saw her beautiful face earlier.
She's there.
Here she is. You got to unmute, my friend. There
Okay.
she is.
So let me find where I wrote my question.
You're so
Yeah.
precious.
Okay.
Guys, I have known Marilyn for forever.
Forever, since we
There
both
at my
started.
First INA conference I went to like 16, 17 years ago.
That was our first INA conference.
No
too.
way, really?
I think so. It was either that one or one before. So Katie, I was wondering, with your support staff, your team, how did you screen for them to get those perfect candidates? Did you use personality tests? Did you just go by your gut? You know, what did you use to find those perfect, great candidates?
Well, it's been, I've been so fortunate to have wonderful people that have worked for me over the years. Like even the people that are no longer there, most people just leave because life takes them away. You know, they want to be a stay-at-home mom, or they're moving, or they got married or something. I feel like it's a God thing, honestly, because like they are just the most wonderful team. And I feel so fortunate to have encountered these women. But I think that to give you more concrete answers, we do use personality testing. I like the DISC test, and that's helpful. It won't make me not hire someone, but it more gives me information about, okay, am I hiring the right person? Are they in the right place on our team? the measures like dominance and like what kind of a personality you have and what you're good at. And so I really like the DISC personality test. A book that I also really love is by Patrick Lencioni. I think it's called like The Ideal Team Player. And that was a book that really impacted how I hire. And it really talks about how so many people hire for the wrong things. You know, you hire for like experience or resume. And I will say, I don't hire based on any of that. I don't care what your experience is. I don't care if you went to college or not, it doesn't matter to me. I'm really just hiring people that are passionate, that are honest and have integrity, that are hardworking, that are humble, that are people I can see myself working alongside. Humility is big for me. Like if you think you're all that, it doesn't go anywhere helpful. You have to be someone that can like step outside yourself and be self-aware, especially in our industry, when you work with so many clients and caregivers, you have to be someone who's really self-aware, and also someone that will admit when they're wrong, because that definitely comes up in our job too. Sometimes
What was the last one, Katie?
Someone that can admit when they're wrong,
Oh, yeah.
because that definitely happens. And also someone that can take responsibility when something goes bad. So many people deflect or they blame someone else, and just someone that takes responsibility quickly and apologizes and like, how can we do this better? Like that's huge for me. So it's really, I really do a lot of the interviews myself, and we incorporate our team in the interviews too. And up until COVID, one of my favorite things was doing a dinner interview with my spouse and theirs, if they had one, and taking them out to dinner. And now my hiring is so different that only 2 members of my team live in Los Angeles with me. So I can't really do this anymore. But if you are someone that hires locally, I'll tell you what I used to do, because it was one of my favorite things. I would invite them out to dinner with their spouse, and we would go to a restaurant, and I would bring my husband, because I think, who you choose to spend your life with is really important. And I'll give you an example. One of the women that I was so excited about, I'm like, I don't even need to do this dinner interview. Like, she's so amazing. I'm so excited to meet her and hire her. And then we went to dinner, and her husband was there. And by what he was saying and how he was acting, it was so obvious that he thought this job was very beneath her. He thought that it was obvious he didn't support it. He thought that she should open her own agency. And she totally could have. Anyone can. It's not like a hard thing, but he thought that's what she should do. And she didn't want to. She wanted to work with a team. She wanted that team atmosphere. She wanted to work with an established company, but he obviously, like you could tell, beneath her. And so I didn't hire her because of that. Because if her spouse is not going to be supportive, and every time she has a problem, he'll be like, well, I told you, like, that's not going to be a great working environment. So one of the things that I also like to do during those dinners was get there early. And I would often ask the waiter to make a mistake on their order. So if they ordered Coke, I'd have them bring Diet Coke, or forget something. I would purposely ask them to like mess up their meal somehow. And the only reason I did that was because I wanted to see, like, how does someone react when something goes wrong? And secondly, how do they treat people in a service role when something goes wrong? Because the type of people that I want on my team are the people that are going to treat everyone with respect, no matter if they're an A-list celebrity or not, and or someone that just sees the value of humans as human beings, not because of who they are or what they do. So I would encourage anyone that hires. Yes.
One follow-up question to that. At what stage of the process would you invite them out to dinner?
At the very
Have you already looked at the resume, or?
Yeah, at the very end, after they've done multiple interviews and after I've checked their references. It was the absolute last thing in the process. And then if it went well, I would often call them either that night or the next day and offer them the job.
Nice. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Katie. That was really good.
Of course. It's a good one.
All right, we have a couple more. Miss Elena, would you like to ask your question?
Yes. Hi, Katie. I'm trying not to fangirl out a little bit. I'm also a nanny, transitioning to agency owner. And of course, I'm
Awesome.
super, super familiar with Westside Nanny. So it's so nice to be here.
I'm so glad you're here.
Yeah, so something that's really important to me as a newer agency as well, in a community that doesn't have a lot of experience with agencies, is that our candidates and our families feel that they have continued support kind of after the placement, but of course want to kind of keep that within some parameters as well. So I was just curious if you had any thoughts or kind of what your process is in terms of how frequently you follow up.
That is such a good question and so interesting here. We really follow up as much as we can, but what we also realized was we only have so much time and you can't follow up all the time. So what we've done is we've automated following up a lot. So we'll follow up in person, like the day after someone starts their job with both parties, like a week after and a month after, but then we've automated check-ins like once a month after that and give information and follow-ups. We've had legal advice that says you should never follow up with a nanny because it kind of puts you in a precarious situation that you might be kind of damaging their work environment. And we've had even clients that have said, never talk to my nanny, never call her, never contact her. And people get really about it sometimes. But I feel like that's why candidates come to agencies, is to get that support. And so we haven't let that legal advice or some clients scare us into being absent. So we do follow up, but we have had to automate it because there's just no way we can do it all the time. I have to hire more people.
Thank you so much.
But that's also hard when you have an area that's not used to what a nanny agency does. That's hard.
Yeah. While they're putting their remaining questions in the chat box, Katie, I would love if you could tell us, what do you think are 2 or 3 things that have contributed to your incredible success?
Well, my team, I wouldn't be anywhere without them. They're phenomenal women. And they, they say hire people that are smarter than you. I've definitely done that. And I'm very grateful for that. I think that one thing I see a lot of just small business owners in general, not nanny agencies, but get hung up on is taxes and financial planning. And in the beginning years, I felt like I would do my best. And then at the end of the year, I'd have this like savings account basically. And then I go to my accountant, we do our taxes. And what I thought I had in savings, like what I thought my profit was for the whole year, I learned just how to go to taxes, and I felt like a punch in the gut. And I felt like, wow, like I didn't plan well. And literally all my money went to taxes. So after that happening a couple of years, I really decided to be more strategic with how I plan for revenue and how I plan for taxes. And I'll share with you what I do, and it's not going to work for everyone, but it's really helped me. And so I want to share it. So I come up with a number like for our general operating account, and that I just feel like I want to have in there at all times. And for us, that's $50,000. And it's going to be different for each of you. I want to be able to have enough for a couple payrolls or whatever. And just kind of feel like whatever's going to come up is going to be fine. So we keep that in our general operating account. And then we have a savings account that's a 6-month operating budget. So 6 months of 50. And that just sits in an emergency fund account. And that provides a lot of comfort. If things like COVID happen, you don't have to like panic and be running around like a fire's happening or let people go. So I think that it really helps if there's a down month, because what I found is like there are down months. That's one thing about this industry. It's ups and downs. You'll have great months and you'll have months where you literally make nothing, kind of like real estate. And that can be really hard, the peaks and the valleys. So, but I've also found that you usually don't make zero. You usually just make less. It's just a bad month. It's not a 0 month. It's just a bad month. So I think having a savings account and being able to have that there and feel like that's there to help cover those things is really helpful. And then you also make better decisions. Like when I was starting, I remember very succinctly a conversation I had with the dad who was so irate. I don't remember why, wanting all his money back. And I had to say to him, I'd love to give your money back, but I actually don't have it anymore because I paid my rent and I went grocery shopping for myself and I paid my lights, my electricity. So like, I literally don't have it to get back to you. It's gone. So let's stop arguing about that and see what I can actually do to help you, because I don't have your money anymore. I spent it. And that was really uncomfortable and hugely embarrassing. So I think that if you have a pot of cash and you can utilize that, you can make better decisions. Like maybe that would have been a person I would have given a refund to,
Yes.
So it just allows you to have more peace in your life. So those are the accounts I always have. Then we have an operating account, all the money goes into it, right? So I want to keep my 50,000 there. If we have 100,000 in that account and like no big bills are coming up or anything like that, that's 50,000 that I can do something with. I always put half into taxes and half you take home. So you're always putting half of whatever you take home into a tax account. And I think that's really important. And that might give you more money than you need for taxes, but you'll never not have enough if you follow that system. That's something I really wish someone had told me when I started, because then I wouldn't have been all those years with like punch in the gut. Oh, I don't have any money actually. It's just planning appropriately for taxes is so huge and keeping track of all that stuff.
Absolutely is.
And then the only other thing, I think your question was, what do you wish you would have known or something like that? I think sometimes just me as a person, I'm too like careful and too safe. And I maybe don't take risks when I should. Like even hiring someone, I always wanted to have a year of their salary in the bank before I hired someone, because I never wanted to have to let someone go because I couldn't afford to keep them. And that was always really important to me, but maybe it held me back some, because I think that's kind of unrealistic for most people. So I would say I probably should have taken some more risks. I probably would have gotten further along sooner if I had, but I was a little too careful sometimes. It worked out, but it probably took me a little too long to do it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yes. And a lot of people wait until they're drowning to hire. And then the idea of now I have to train someone while I am drowning is insurmountable. So,
but every time I've hired, I make money. Like that's the thing. If you hire someone, it shouldn't be as much of an expense as it is this person's going to be a revenue driver, or they're going to free my time to be a revenue driver. Like it should make you money. That's the whole purpose of why you should hire someone. Either they're going to do something that creates money or gives you more time to create it. That's the only reason.
Now, Katie, we have a couple more questions. I want to be cautious of your time. Do you have a couple more minutes to answer? Okay,
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Let's see. Here they all come. It looks like Emily, did you want to ask your question or have me read it, dear?
I would love for you to read it. Thanks, Meg.
So Emily asked, what structured or unstructured ways do you encourage staff to share ideas that may not necessarily fall in their realm of focus? No doubt your frontline placement and recruitment folks probably have some great anecdotal feedback suggestions for social ideas or blog ideas based on what they're hearing and seeing. So I guess she's, asking how you bring the team's different ideas together.
Well, we have team meetings, and I think everyone knows that this is an open door policy. And I think that one of the things that we do is if we get a great idea, we let the whole team know and we celebrate that idea. But I think there are ways that we could be even better about that. Asking everyone on the team, like, what are your ideas for blog posts? That could be good. I feel like everyone's so busy, but everyone does have such great ideas. And if they ever bring them up, we do it, we run with it. So I think everyone knows that they are free to bring up ideas and that those ideas are valued. And I really do value what they think. They're very smart and they're kind of more on the front lines than I am. So I definitely listen to them, but I think that's even an area where we could do even better. But I think team meetings, we bring everyone together, and that is super important.
So we've had a couple of questions about your overseas hires. Basically, do you use a company for that? and do those hires understand the agency and how it works? Sorry if I asked your question. I just want to kind of put those two together because I know she has a really cool solution and I want her to have time to share.
Cool. I love hiring in general, right? It is so funny to me how some people hire through an agency. I mean, I guess I understand the value of an agency. That's what we do. But I also think like you're recruiters. Like I would hope you can hire for yourself. Like this is what we do all day. We tell our clients we're experts at it. So I would hope that you're an expert when it comes to hiring for yourself. So I hire for myself. I don't use any agencies and I don't go to anyone that employs the candidates for you. I only want people to be actually a part of our team. So my favorite job board, although I've used a couple different ones, is onlinejobs.ph. And it's a job board in the Philippines made by a guy named John Jonas, I think is his name. And he's awesome. He has tons of content about hiring virtual assistants that is fantastic if you want to read up on it. And I do the process as similar as I can to our US process. We put out an ad, we put out a job, we see the candidates that come in, we take them through a process, we look at their resume, but it really, really comes down to the interview. And one of the things I think that, especially in the Philippines, and I try to hire women and many of them are moms, and they are used to working in companies that are just like the worst. They just are answering the phone, dealing with rude people, doing data entry. And so when I hire them, I tell them, you know, when we hire you, you're a part of our team. You're not like, oh, you're just a part of our overseas VAs. It's like, no, you're actually a part of our team. You are just as smart and just as capable as anyone that lives here. And we're going to treat you exactly like that. And we want to hear your ideas and we want you to be really invested. And so we also have the same expectations for them as our US based team. And like, I wouldn't have a different expectation of someone that just because they live overseas, they're just as smart and just as capable. And so we train them the exact same way and based upon their job. And we move them into leadership positions because they're women just like us and they're amazing and they're absolutely phenomenal. And they have been some of my absolute best hires and just are so pivotal on our team and so reliable and so wonderful. And our team loves the rest of the team, the ones that are in the Philippines or in the US. I mean, it's kind of like we hire people that live in Los Angeles and people that live in Texas or South Carolina, and some people happen to live in the Philippines. It's just where they're based.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I think the advantage, especially with a company like Level, is they have if you haven't employed before, they have the coaches, right? So the coach for the VA, the coach for you.
I can see that. Maybe if it's your first employee, I can see that.
Exactly.
But the problem with it is they take their pay. It's like those shady nanny agencies that like take half of the nanny's money. I mean, that's basically what they do, right? So any person that employs someone for you, if they're overseas, is taking a chunk of their pay. And they're also getting a manager that might not be nice to them. So
Interesting thought there.
I don't know.
I
know you love Level, but just the other perspective.
I love Level. They're so great. They also give them benefits. Okay, Audrey, do you want to ask your question?
I give benefits.
Sure.
Overseas team, you give benefits?
Yeah, I mean, they give paid vacation, paid holidays, you know, everything that I can do, I do.
Gotcha. You're the best. All right, Miss Audrey, go ahead, sweetheart.
Thank you. Hello.
Hi.
So going back to when you first started your business, how did you go about finding your target market? How did that look for you? And did you happen to live and work already in the market that you're servicing, or did you choose it and reach out for it? Because I'm in my first year of opening my agency and kind of dealing with all of that right now. And, you know, Megan's got so much info on that, but I'm just curious. I'm always curious on hearing other people's stories and how that looked for you.
That's a really good question. I did market research and I looked at who else was in the marketplace and how I could differentiate myself at the time. And really decided I wanted to focus on a really high-end clientele and focused on like building a website that would attract that kind of clientele. And just in everything that I did, try to speak that language. But I didn't know anyone that fit that parameter. I wasn't friends with those people. I did ask my boss at the time if they would email their friends about my new business, and they were kind enough to do that. They were attorneys. And so they did email someone. I think I got 2 calls off of the people that they emailed. So if you know anyone that will email, I would definitely do that. And I actually honestly don't even know how we got our first couple clients. We got some calls and we just utilized them. And then every time we had a successful placement, I asked them to refer their friends, and it started to become a little word of mouth. And that was much more popular at that time. But it was hard when I started. The agencies in LA have been around for like 40 years.
Wow.
We were really established at the time that I started. So I was definitely the new person breaking in and got a ton of flack from other agencies that were not very nice to the newcomer. I feel like agencies start all the time now, so I think it's a little different. But at that time, I don't feel like there were any newcomers at all. And it had just been the old guard that had been there for like 40 years. And they were none too pleased that anyone else was encroaching on their territory.
Right. And a quick little follow-up question to that is, how long, if you can remember, how long did it take for you to start getting a consistent client?
It took me a couple months to get my first placement check. And then it wasn't super consistent. I always felt like I had some stuff to work on, but I might be like, I get 1 placement and then I might not get a placement for like a month and a half, 2 months even. So it was really inconsistent in the beginning, but it was enough to keep me going. Like I had really low expenses. And like, I think that was the thing that really helped me, is because I was used to being a broke college student and I could live really inexpensively. So it didn't actually take a lot to cover the expenses that I have. And I purposely always kept my expenses really low. It'd be really hard for me to do it now, to be honest with you. You know, I have kids, I have a mortgage, like it'd be really hard to start my business now because I can't live with nothing, you know? But at the time, it didn't take much to get me by. And that definitely made it easier.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, Chantel, let's take your question and then maybe one more.
Thank you. Hello. Hello. Good to see you. Thank you, Katie, for coming on. I appreciate it.
That's my honor.
One thing I can say is I was a nanny who's now open an agency. And one thing as a Canadian coming in, you've always been so wonderful with communicating back, even if I wasn't able to get the job. And that's one thing that really stood out to me. So
I'm so glad.
Thank you.
That was something we've really tried to work on because it wasn't always that way.
No. And it's to me, it's been like 5 or 6 years that I've kind of messed with certain jobs and it stood out. Yeah. So thank you for that. Thank you. And then my question is what were your first 3 hires, and how did you let go of like control? The first 3 people you brought to your team.
I would always hire someone to help me, like an assistant. That was my first hire. Okay. And I tried to hire people that did a lot of the tasks that I didn't want to do.
Okay.
That was references at the time.
Yes.
I know a lot of people use Scout for their references now. So it's not as much the same, but I hated references. Oh my gosh, they took up so much time.
Yes.
Again and again and again, and keep track of all of that. So that was always something I really needed help with.
Okay.
And then even though I love recruiting and at my heart, I'm an introvert. So I kind of wanted someone to help me with interviewing candidates.
Yes.
someone that was an extrovert and just loved meeting people all the time. Because that wasn't really me. Like it would kind of exhaust me a little bit at the end of the day.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
I usually started, and for a long time, the entry level position at my office was as a recruiter, and you would be doing reference checking and interviewing. And I also felt like that was the easiest job to train for. I feel like placements is a harder job to train for. So everyone would start as a recruiter. And then once they mastered that, we used to have a temp service. We don't anymore. But then they would move on to our temp service because I felt like if you're going to mess something up, I'd rather you mess up like something that's going to make $25 than something that's going to make like $8,000.
Yes.
So we did temp, and then they would kind of get the experience with clients and management and that kind of thing. And then they move on to permanent placement. But now we don't have temp anymore at all. And now that our teams are more built out, we really hire for the individual position. But that was always where it started. Recruiter is an assistant.
Okay. And did they
For a
have
long time. Go ahead.
Sorry. I was gonna say, did they have knowledge of the nanny world? Or did you have to teach them exactly what?
I often hired people that applied as nannies.
Okay.
So they did have some knowledge of the nanny world. I also think that nannies are like the nicest people.
Yes.
I mean, a lot of the people that work on our team worked as nannies.
Okay. I love that. Okay. They get it. Perfect. Thank you.
Actually, probably most of them.
I love that.
Or their moms.
Okay. Yes. So they understand childcare. Perfect. Thank you so much, Katie. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Thank you.
Well, Katie, you have just been a true joy. You're a wealth of knowledge. You're an inspiration.
Thanks, guys. I'm sorry I was hacking up along half the time.
No, we appreciate you suffering through and being here for us. I just can't thank you enough for all your willingness to share.
I feel like we could talk for another hour. There's so many fun questions.
We always have questions for you. They're still coming in. I just want to be mindful of your time. I know you have your wine.
I can be still too if you want to bring in a couple more. It's
all right. Okay. I'm not going
to get off. You can leave. I get it.
I'm not going to complain. Ashley Lopez has asked this question like 4 times, so we better answer her. Ashley, if you want to speak, then Yaneli has some questions about compensating your team. So Ashley, go ahead and ask. Oh, Team Crunch Care, we love you guys. Team Crunch Care.
Okay, it was really 2 times, right, Megan? Right. But no, I think for me, it would really be, my question is in your onboarding process and how you, like, what do you do to make it go quickly and smoothly? You know, the question I did ask originally was, do you do that phone screening for sure first and then move to a face-to-face interview, whether that's in person or Zoom? Or did you find that it was best just to do a Zoom interview like right off the bat?
That's a great question. In Los Angeles, where we are, it's an extremely competitive market. There's so many agencies that are here and new ones open every day. So speed is really very important. I think that changes based on your location and how many agencies you have. So I think speed in terms of clients wanting to see candidates quickly, and also speed in terms of candidates wanting to get through the process quickly. And we really prioritize that. So the biggest thing that holds candidates up in getting through our system is not us. It is their references. Like if their references won't get back to us, then there's nothing we can really do about that. That is something that we have no control over. But anything that we do have control over, like we make an effort to be so fast with it. So fast inviting them to the initial interview. We do not do phone screenings. We invite them to a Zoom interview, fast at getting everything to them. Quick in telling them what to do, how to apply to jobs. The referencing is the only thing that holds people up. But I mean, if the references are coming through quickly, and so, like the other day we had someone, all their references got back to us same day, like then that's a candidate that can go from interview to being sent out for jobs within like 48 hours. Wow. So it just, you know, we try to get it as small as we can. I'd have to ask my director of recruitment what our current goal is, because we do have goals and they are always dependent on time from initial interview to the time when they're represented by us. And I think our goal is to have that under a week.
What are some attributes of nannies who you feel that get through the process quickly? Like, how much experience do they normally have? Do you find that the ones that have been with families long enough, like what do you consider a professional nanny, I guess, that would get through your process quickly and not hold you up on that regard?
Someone who's organized, who has their, you know, stuff together, and really understands like what they need to do to present themselves, like has a resume, understands what they're doing, shows up to their interview the first time, and has all their reference information ready, maintains positive relationships with those references, you know, has a good presentation, interviews well. The professionals, I feel like they speed through the process really quickly and they get hired really quickly.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
So Yaneli wants me to read her question, and then the incredible nanny Stella had one. So Yaneli asked, what does your compensation package look like for employees? Do you offer them commission?
If they're in sales roles, they get commission. Everyone gets a base salary. And of course, I won't give actual figures or anything like that because that wouldn't be respectful to my team. But everyone gets a base salary that's on our team. If they're in a sales role, they get a commission. But my goal is to have all team members earning really great income. And so the non-sales roles, like our recruiters, they're not in a sales position, so they don't get commission. But I that's on purpose because I want that team to be more collaborative. And I think commissions can often silo people so that you're just working on your own thing, you're not helping out the rest of your team as much. And in the recruitment, I really want that to be a very collaborative team effort amongst everyone, not just be like, well, I'm only going to work on the nannies I interview because that's what I make commission on. It's really a team. And so I purposely don't do commission for recruiters, but I also tell them your salaries, your base salaries will continue to go up. Whereas for our team that is commissioned, like their base salaries stay low because their goal is to bring in sales and then make commissions on it. So you might have a recruiter and a placement counselor that actually earn the same thing, but the recruiter will be salary based and the placement counselor will be a low base plus commission. So that's kind of how I have it set up. We also do like fun things. We do like monthly bingos and contests and things that incentivize things that help us bring in revenue and get us closer to our goals. So we try to like change it up and have some fun things and fun incentives that are different. But it's kind of like a blended compensation where some people make commission, some people make salary. We do bonuses and it works really well. I think everyone's happy and I reward people that stay. Longevity is super important. Your salary will continue to go up and the high performers are earning quite a bit.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
When you have a new candidate that comes into the system, how long does it take for your recruiters to get in touch with them, communicate and get there? They call them the first time they come in. They don't hear from them. How often do they call back? And how long does it usually take for their application or intake to be completed?
We automate so much stuff. And that's been one of the ways that we've been so productive. So I'll give you an example of how that process that you're talking about, we've automated. So when someone applies on our website, they go to a dashboard that our recruiter takes a look at, and she looks at it every single day and makes the decision of whether we're going to invite them in for an interview, whether we're going to ask them to redo their resume, because we can't tell like what they've been up to. Some of the resumes we get are crazy. Or whether we're just going to decline them because it's obvious they don't meet our qualifications. So the recruiter is going to select one of those options and then an email is going to get sent based upon what it is. If they're inviting to an interview, it's going to be an invitation to interview where they can use Calendly to go set that up. If it's, hey, you need to redo your resume, they're going to get instructions on how to do that. And then it's on them if they do that or not. And if they're someone we can't work with, they're going to get an email saying like, hey, we can't work with you. Here's the reason why. Check back in once your experience changes. So it kind of quickly, I think within like pretty much, I think all applications are responded to within like 6 hours. As soon as someone applies, they're going to get a response of some type. And then the ball's in their court. Then they have to decide, okay, am I going to schedule my interview? Am I going to redo my resume and send it back or whatever? So if they select an interview, there are always interview slots available. They could technically interview same day, but most people are going to interview like in the next couple of days. And then they show up for that interview, and kind of every step along the process, we really try to automate as much as we can.
And the
So
interviews are
that
Zoom?
is fast. Zoom, yeah, Zoom interviews.
Okay. Do you ever do phone interviews?
Never.
Okay.
Because our clients don't, so like we want to see how the person is going to show up for our clients, and our clients aren't doing phone interviews. They're doing
smart.
Zoom. So we want to see them in the way that they're going to show up. And we also like give them advice and critiques of, okay, I see you're here sitting on your bed. I can see your pajama pants. Like, that's not a way to show up to an interview. Or it might be like, I just want to make you bring it to your attention. Your dog's really yapping in the background. That's not going to work well for you in your interview. So when you actually have an interview, you want to find a nice quiet space. You can't have your dog around. So we give them advice like that's actually helpful based on what we see.
That's great. That's
All right.
amazing. You're definitely an inspiration.
Thanks, Darla. You are too. I love learning from you as well.
Oh, I really look up to you. And I have to tell you, your second career should be a photographer, because your pictures, your kids look like they're on the cover of Town and Country.
That's so cute.
I mean, they're the most beautiful pictures. I'm in awe of them.
That's so sweet.
And they're beautiful too.
I do love taking pictures of them. When I get extra time to do that, I do love photography.
All right, Katie. Well, I'm going to call it because I think we could be here all night with you. We'll definitely have you back in and beg you to come be a guest speaker again at an upcoming retreat.
Pleasure. It was so nice seeing all your.
Enjoy the wine.
Friday.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Katie.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.